WNYC support comes from the 2025 U.S. Open Tennis Championships. The final Grand Slam tournament of the year takes place in New York City August 18th through September 7th. Tickets on sale now. More info at usopen.org.
I'm Stephen Nesson from the WNYC Newsroom. We are so grateful for the outpouring of financial support we've seen since Congress voted to eliminate federal funding for public media. It's the generosity of WNYC listeners that will keep quality news, information, and entertainment free and available to everyone in our community. If you haven't stepped up with a contribution yet, now's the time. Start or increase your monthly sustaining donation at WNYC.org.
Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next, and then in 10 minutes at 9 o'clock, it's the BBC News Hour. Let's check in and see what they're working on. What's up, London?
Good morning, WNYC. I'm Rebecca Kesby, and on today's News Hour, Ukraine's missing children, thousands taken by Russian forces, many indoctrinated in Russian military schools, some now fighting on the front line against Ukraine. Also, Sudan's cholera crisis and Australia's intersex birds. That's BBC News Hour coming up at 9 on WNYC.
77 degrees already on your Thursday morning. It'll be sunny today with a high around 87 degrees. There's a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms after 11 this morning. Storms last night tore through parts of the region, leaving down trees in some areas, and we're hoping that's not repeated today.
Imagine using wood to rebuild after wildfire. Some are.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com.
I'm David Brancaccio in Los Angeles. First, there's news just now that wholesale inflation came in 3 times higher than expected. The July prices were 0.9% higher than June's. Economists say that's in part driven by higher tariffs and could make it harder for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. At its next meeting, stock index futures went from neutral to down on the news. Down about 0.5% is the range. New York's Attorney General is suing the company that runs the Zelle payment platform, alleging its customers were left open to fraudsters.
New York Attorney General Letitia James sued Early Warning Services, the company that developed and operates Zelle. Early Warning Services is owned by some of the biggest banks in the country. James says Zelle was hastily launched to compete with other payment apps like PayPal and didn't have critical safety features. The Attorney General says Zelle had a simple registration process that didn't have important verification steps. James says scammers were able to access users' Zelle accounts and make unauthorized transfers, stealing more than $1 billion from Zelle users from 2017 to 2023. In a statement, Zelle says more than 99% of the transactions on its platform are completed without reported fraud, calling the lawsuit a political stunt and adding that if banks are held liable for fraud on Zelle, they could raise their fees. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
Kodak is saying it's optimistic about the future, is not fixing to go out of business, and is not burning through cash. This after several media outlets noticed what the company calls a technical warning in an official Kodak filing, raising the issue of going out of business. Kodak, in its much reduced modern form, still makes film for the movie industry and has a chemical and commercial printing business and gets mileage from its iconic brand.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Odoo, dedicated to providing software designed to scale with businesses. Odoo's programs for manufacturing, accounting, and more aim to provide building blocks for creating a custom software suite. Odoo, what businesses need. And by This Old House Radio Hour podcast, answering listeners' DIY and renovation questions and diving into home design trends, available in podcast apps.
For many people like me who lost a house in the California wildfires this year, the most pressing question is, do we have the money to rebuild? But today, a second key question, how to rebuild in an environmentally friendly way that might also stand up to the next fire. Some are thinking about plastic insulation sandwiched between concrete. Some like frames of steel. I've also been looking at, get this, wood. Even after the fire in Altadena turned all the wood in my old stick and stud house into gray ash. That's me turning into a 4-year-old given a toy-sized 3D printed truck here at a University of Oregon lab. Architecture professor Mark Fretz shows me the real attraction, a stack of scale model wood panels on the truck ready for hoisting. I don't see any 2x4s. Where are your studs, my friend?
Yeah, no studs in this house. This is all a flat panel.
Scaled full size, the panels can be tipped up onto a foundation to make a house.
A house that's similar to an IKEA dresser that you can take apart and flat pack and bring home.
But not IKEA particle board. These panels can be made from what's called cross-laminated timber, CLT. Lots of small boards glued together in crisscross layers for strength. In places like Oregon, they see gold in this engineered spruce, pine, or fir.
To revive the timber economy is through the use of mass timber is exciting to everybody.
Judith Shine is Director of Design at the Tallwood Design Institute and a University of Oregon architecture professor.
There's the idea of sustainable forest management and carbon sequestration, which interests people.
Why would a person who just saw their house burn down want to rebuild with wood?
It would be reasonable to ask that question because it's been compared to building with kindling. It's a big, thick material. That does not burn easily.
Exposed to fire, mass timber turns black, and that sooty layer stops the fire from eating through the rest of the wood. CLT panels can be made from younger farmed trees or spindly ones culled from forests to lower the risk of wildfire and to allow the big trees to thrive. And remember, trees capture climate-altering carbon.
And if you can keep that carbon in a building material, you can sequester that carbon for hundreds of years.
A government study found a mass timber commercial building would have a nearly 70% smaller carbon footprint than an equivalent reinforced concrete one. So come for the fire and green benefits, but stay for the design if you like the look of natural wood over drywall.
It warms the space.
Maurice Romming with O'Neill Construction Group is an Oregon contractor who's worked with mass timber, including a piece of PDX, Portland's wood-forward airport terminal.
Especially on single family, but also on multifamily homes. It's going to be mostly all prefabricated to engineer specifications, a lot quicker, easier.
That said, CLT panels are more expensive than studs and thin plywood. The hope is you save money on labor at the job site, where a single family house can be boxed up in a week or so. Apartment complexes and commercial buildings made of mass timber are springing up across the country, up to 18 stories tall. But in the U.S., only about 100 single-family homes use the stuff. Steve Marshall runs the consultancy Mass Timber Strategy after a long career in the U.S. Forest Service. Old stick-and-frame habits die hard, he says, and you need smaller mills to customize the panels for the smaller jobs. He's now working on mass timber microfactories.
Buying blank panels from the large manufacturers and then providing them to these cutting centers where the unique cutting of the panels will be done for specific buildings. And a lot of that target will be multifamily, but it will include single-family homes as well.
I'll report more on what we decide to do for our rebuild. Cost is always a factor, and I appreciate that the most sustainable approach would be for us to turn our burned little plot of land in Altadena into a forever meadow and to move into an existing dwelling with maybe our kids. But our children don't have the room, and leaving the one real estate asset we own undeveloped seems like bad personal finance. In Los Angeles, I'm David Brancaccio. This is the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.